I mean, here we are in this beach town in Southern California, and I know my neighbor across the street from me, house is probably worth, I'm guessing $4.5 million, and he bought the house for $330,000. I believe in like around the early '90s, so that's 25 years ago. So they bought the house for $400,000 20 years ago, and now it's worth $4.5 million. So basically, through the money printing, through the inflation, they've artificially pushed the asset price up, and then they want to take the money. So you're actually worse off, right?
This is the problem. That predatory event, which is sort of pushes inflation, makes everyone feel like they're wealthy and they're richer than they are. But the problem is, your neighbour, if he wants to monetize that in any way, shape or form other than debt, needs to sell that asset, pay whatever taxes are available on it. Whatever's left, he still has to find a home.
Yeah.
And guess what? Everything else has gone up around him. So he'll probably be buying an inferior asset. And this is where, to me, Bitcoin plays a huge part, particularly for those real estate investors, of diversifying a portfolio and adding in an asset that they can understand or easily understand that is very similar and acts very similarly to real estate. But to me, it has significant upside over and above what real estate does, even with the leverage that you can get there.
Yeah. Before we get into that, though, just kind of sticking on this for a minute, I mean, why would anybody keep money in a pension account if that's the case? Wouldn't everybody just close their pension accounts out and move them into other assets?
Well, the problem is this is captive for anyone under 62 or 65 years of age.
They're not allowed to sell?
They're not allowed to sell. Well, they're allowed to sell their assets, but they're not allowed to take the assets out of the pension system until they reach what's called preservation age, which is around between 60 and 65. But by the time we get there, they'll push that to 65 to 70. And it's kind of a Hotel California for capital that it can go in, but unless you're retired, you can't take that money out.
Now, is this only for government workers, the captured pension system, or is it like private businesses also paid into that?
This is for everyone in Australia, but just the absolute duplicitous event that happens on this is that most government pensions are not subject to this tax because they have something different called a defined benefit scheme.
Of course.
So fortunately for the politicians who are making decisions for the rest of us, their superannuation scheme or pension scheme is not affected. So
of course,
they will not suffer the tax consequences that everyone else will.
Sure, that's how it always is. Recently, I saw Larry Fink from BlackRock was over, I believe, in India, and he was talking about how BlackRock wants to help these other countries build up capital markets. So the U.S. sort of has this unfair advantage because we have these capital markets that attracts all these capital, but he wants these other countries like India that are rapidly growing to also have capital markets and maybe try to kind of bring them up. And he talked about the problem that India has because most people down there own gold. So they keep it as jewelry and they keep their wealth in that gold. And he talked about in a roundabout way where basically India should sort of make that illegal because they need all that wealth in the system. Right. And so that's kind of the point that you're making. They want that money in the pension, and then they want to probably continue to raise that pension age because they need that money to stay in there. And that's exactly what Fink was saying. He's like, no, we need all that gold to go into the system so we can have it. And he even did talk about the age at which you could withdraw it. But even more specifically, what he talked about was the way, meaning the schedule, the time, how much you could withdraw at a certain time. Because again, they want the money. And, with governments going broke, I mean, they're just going to be coming for everything. We just have to sort of expect that.
And sadly, this is why I bring it up. And it's a cautionary tale because Australia is a test net for the rest of the world when it comes to this. If there's very little pushback in Australia, then other governments will look at that and think, well, the Australians didn't arc up about it. Why don't we test it? Yeah. And so it will just proliferate amongst those G7 countries that you talk of.
I just went to Australia for the first time. I was down there just a couple months ago. And I grew up, watching Crocodile Dundee and, Steve Irwin. And I just had this vision of these Australians being these rugged and burly kind of people. Like, that's not a knife. This is a knife, right? Or Foster's like, this is a beer or whatever it is, right? But yeah, it sure seems like the Australians are pushovers these days.
Sadly.
I hate to say that, right? It all started when you gave up your guns.
Yep. And I think there was it was an opportune time for the government to have that gun buyback and seizure of the guns, and Australia hasn't really pushed back on that whatsoever. gun licensing is very different to what it is in the US. The US, it is a right. In Australia, it's a privilege that the government bestows on you if you meet the certain hurdles. You need to go through all sorts of licensing and training in order to get that. There are some exemptions for farmers and the like who need that for maintenance of property, but it's a very different culture in Australia to America, and I think there has been a whittling away of that ochre Australian who pushes back on authority to say, hey, we don't want to deal with that, leave us alone, and probably highlighted by the reaction, the behaviour around the vaccine mandates and lockdowns that we went through, which I think were probably globally the most draconian out of anywhere. And I live in New South Wales or Sydney. South of us is Victoria, which had arguably it did have the world's longest lockdown. And so I had a lot of friends down there who, just walking in the street, they were stopped by the police to say, what are you doing? Where are you going? You're not allowed to be out. You've got to go home. It's like, I'm walking the dog. There was some serious concerns raised, and I think we're very quick to memory hole that and not draw attention to it, forget it ever happened, and move on until the next one.